Folks, I realize it's 4 o'clock. We understand Counselor Peterson is not coming and Counselor Perry is getting on, so we won't have a quorum until he is on go-to. Unless you want to. Is he on? But Counselor Perry, are you with us? Okay, it is now 4:04, and we're calling the Legal Committee meeting to order. This is Thursday, May 27th, 2021. Could we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Stubbs?
Here.
Counselor Peterson? Counselor Perry?
I'm here.
Counselor Foster?
Here.
Madam, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. So, can I get a...
Madam Chair, may I ask a question real quick?
Certainly.
Okay, so I guess this is just telephone. Does this mean that we don't have video capability?
That would be a question for Jeff, certainly not for me.
Okay, I'll do the best I can.
Let me see what he says. You have to have the app for video capabilities. Do you have?
Well, I have app, and I tried to use it, but it did not. So anyway, okay, if maybe we can just figure out how to get that to work before the main council meeting here in a little while, because I'm going to want to be able to see if possible. But I'll work my way through it this way on this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, can I have a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved because that's 3 out of 3. Approval of the minutes of the legal committee that was held on Thursday, April 29th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the April 29th, 2021 legal committee meeting as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Now getting into our regular agenda, starting off with number 1, which is a lease at the Air Center for Charles R. Murphy. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you, thank you. This is the first time, so
Yeah.
bear with me. Councilman, thank you so much. This lease is a renewal lease for Charles Murphy, and he's actually had the building there for 7 years. So it's a renewal, it's for 1 year, and the monthly amount is $217, and the annual amount is $2,604. So this will begin July 1, 2021 through June 30th of 2022.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about this?
Well, the one normal standing question is, has there been an increase in this amount, or is this the?
Yes, there has, 3%. In, let's see, 2020, it was $211, and with the increase, the 3% increase, it's at $217.
As I look at the next page of our packet, which is the lease agreement, the first page, I see a couple typo kind of things in there.
Okay.
I think it's Scribner changes or whatever we call them. I guess it's not complete. Maybe it's a boilerplate. And it talks about the Roswell International Air Center. So
Is that on?
just a few changes.
Okay, on the first page?
Pardon me?
On the first page of the lease
Of
agreement?
the lease, yes, that's what we have in
All
our
right.
packet.
I apologize.
No, just if they can be fixed before council.
Sure, will do. Are
Great.
there any other questions?
Do we have any other questions? Comments? Okay, then I guess we're ready for a motion on this renewal. You have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to send to full council with the recommendation to approve the rent for, and to find it here, and for Charles R. Murphy on building 255, consisting of 1,344 square feet, more or less, for the purpose of storage, with the rent amount of $217 monthly, $2,604 annually, terms from July 1st to 2021 through June 30th, 2022, with all other terms and conditions of the lease.
Okay. Do we have a second? Counselor Perry made the second. Okay, again, any other questions or comments on this lease? Then, did you say consent agenda?
No, I didn't.
But you meant to.
I meant to.
Okay. So, all those in favor of putting Charles R. Murphy's renewal lease on Building 255 on the consent agenda with a recommendation to approve, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So the motion carries unanimously, and we'll see this on the consent agenda at our June council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the fire hydrant meter policy. Bill? Finance saw this and they sent it to us, so this is kind of a second reading.
That's actually been through infrastructure this week.
Oh, I wondered about
We're
infrastructure.
making the grand tour,
You
here,
really are.
but we saved the best for last, so.
I appreciate that, and
I
your
always
knowledge,
appreciate
I appreciate your knowledge of that.
I appreciate presenting in front of you because it makes me feel young again, like I'm back doing a report with my high school teacher.
What?
Because you always correct my English so well.
And I'm going to again.
That's good.
Go ahead, please, Bill, I'm sorry.
So this is our new fire hydrant meter policy. We have not had a policy in the past, and we really needed one. This came from when I was with my previous employer. We had an EPA inspection and actually had this as a write-up. So I had talked to Mr. Sanchez and said, you know, we need to get a policy in place, and this is what the EPA looks for in case they come in. If they can't find something, they will start looking for things. So what this policy does is that the overall policy and primary purpose is to establish what are fire hydrants for? What do we use them for? And then we're going to discuss in there the conditions and processes for issuing the fire hydrant meters and relocating meters once they're put out there for people. The process to disconnect and return the fire hydrant meters, because it's a policy can never cover everything. There's circumstances that come up that just don't fit. So we do allow exceptions to the policy by the utility director. This prohibits the use of mobile meters. A mobile meter is one that's attached to a truck or something like that, and they can hook up to any fire hydrant they want to. What the EPA regulations say is that we are responsible to know where that meter is attached at all times. Since we are the operators of the system, that's one of the things we're responsible for. It talks about the fees and the deposit schedule for the hydrant meters, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. The process and penalties for unauthorized use of fire hydrants, in case somebody just decides to hook up to it and do whatever they want. Next slide. So on the fee schedule, all the fees in this policy are based on fees that are already established. So we're not looking to create new fees or anything like that. This is stuff that's already there, and they'll change as the resolutions change. So the first one is the meter deposit, and this is based on the actual cost of the meter assembly. Right now, the problem is we're only charging $200 for the meter deposit, and that barely covers the price of the one valve that's on there. And I talked to some of our bigger construction companies that use these meters, and this, they say, is not out of line. There's some places that charge up to $10,000 because they want the money for the meter and they want the first couple of months worth of usage. So the construction companies that I talked to said it's not out of line. The monthly connection fee, this is based on a 3-inch, what a current 3-inch service is. Because that's what they're asking for, is a 3-inch service. So they should be paying the same every month as a commercial customer that has a 3-inch service. That's how we base that. Then we go down to the bulk water rate. That's how we sell that hydrant meter water, and it's at $2.24 per 1,000 gallons. And then the meter relocation fee, when they come in and ask to set up the meter, we'll ask them where they want it. If they want us to go out there and move it, then there's a fee for that. Because when we go out and set up that meter, we set it up and we lock it to the fire hydrant. So they can't move it. The only ones that can do it is our staff. That way we're meeting that EPA mandate. And with that, I would stand for any questions or corrections.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions at this point? Counselor Foster?
Yes, one of my problems I have with it is I know quite a few of our residential people, when they're setting up their pool, and so I'm looking at them having to come up with $2,300 for a deposit for when they're doing a residential pool.
No, this is for construction meters. This is for if they're gonna go out and get placed somewhere. If we have a local resident that just needs it for a day to fill up a swimming pool.
Okay.
We have a whole nother meter assembly that we use for that.
Okay,
We just take it out there, we'll set it up for them, they can use it, then we'll go pick it up.
okay. Well,
For that, there most likely wouldn't even be a deposit. We'll just charge them for the water.
well, usually they're on our billing cycle anyway, so if something happens to it, it can be
Yes.
dealt with that way. But that's what I was worried about, because I know quite a few people that will be calling me as soon as they have to go put a $2,300 deposit to fill up their swimming pool.
Let me explain a little bit why that deposit's so high. These are new meters, and they have a cellular read to them. So the billing office will be able to pull the reads off of those every month, every 2 weeks, whenever they need to. The other thing that it has on it is a GPS locator. So we'll know where that is. If somebody decides to steal it, it's really nice for the police department because they can go knock on the door and say, that meter that's out here in your garage, we'd like it back.
Cool.
And I have vetted this system. I used it in Spearfish, and it does work. So I've been down the road with these guys.
But then I'd almost make the argument that we don't need a deposit because we know where it is all the time. But there again, yeah, for damage and if they can
Yes.
block it. So.
Counselor Perry, any questions or comments from you?
No, I was able to watch the presentation and to look at the information that we've received from it. So really no questions from me. It's rather intriguing to think that somebody invented something like this and whatever we could to better the resources we have to make sure that we're getting to folks what they need, but at the same time protecting our assets is a great thing.
Thank you for that. My turn?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I am on the second page of the policy, 2 out of 5, number 3.0. And I'm kind of in just below half or the middle of the page with the paragraph that starts, the Utilities Department allows for the issuance of a temporary. I'm in that
Yes.
paragraph, but I want to go down to, I think it's the next to the last sentence that starts with a written request for an extension must be submitted by the customer at least 30 days prior to the 3-month deadline.
Yes.
So that's my question, is does the user know 30 days ahead of time that they're going to need an extension on the usage?
The big companies will because they have their timeline set. And if they're running behind, they usually know.
Okay.
And if again, if it's something that's not going to cause a big problem, then utility director can allow an exception for that.
Okay, it just seems to me that 60 days into a 90-day may not be enough, because you're saying that it's good for 30, I thought it was good for 3 months. 3 months. So they can ask for an extension of 60 days.
Yes.
So you have experience, so you're telling me that that's okay to leave that language?
I haven't had problems with that in the past.
Okay, good, appreciate that.
They usually know pretty quick if they're going to be running
If they
behind
need
on
it.
stuff.
Okay, good. I wish I knew. I was going to be right. You discuss Exhibit A, and I don't see, it's not attached.
We don't have
Is that a form?
Yeah, it's a form that's the application
Okay.
for the meter. And
Okay.
it'll just be a standard one. We'll make a couple of changes to what we use.
Okay. And it will obviously include the information that you're asking for in here.
Yes.
I'm still on that same 3.0. Again, on that same page, there are three short sentence kind of paragraphs. The first one, at the time of application, the customer will pay fees. I'm just wondering if that should say and deposits according to the rate.
Make that correction.
That's one for me. And then in the next sentence and paragraph, it says, no fire hydrant meter shall be furnished to relocate for any customer who has any delinquent account. So I guess the customer, the way I understand this is the customer could be a retail store, but the person taking out or requesting the meter could be a contractor. And the retail store could be behind, but not the contractor.
The customer, as I read that, is the person that's renting the meter.
And that's not a contractor?
It could be that would be whoever walks into the billing office and
Right.
signs the form would be the customer. And if they have a delinquent account, they'd
Right.
have to bring that account current first.
But if I, as their customer, have a delinquent account, is that burden on me?
No,
It's on,
whoever's signing up and requesting that meter.
okay. So typically, it wouldn't be the store owner, it would be the contractor?
Yes,
Okay, thank you for that.
one for me.
And then, the next page, 4.0, the second paragraph, it says the customer will supply where the meter is to be relocated, and the customer must update the original application. So I just see a lot of scratching out on the application. Is there not a attachment that you could put on there or something? I mean,
What I envisioned on that is at the bottom of the form, we'll have a couple of spots for relocations.
Okay. Okay, see, it's not that bad. 5.0, disconnection of fire hydrant meter. The last sentence in the first paragraph, if the extension has not be approved.
Oh. Okay,
Thank you. And then, explain to me the very last sentence, I think it is, in the whole contract, which is on page 5 of 5, above the signatures. If any fire hydrant meter is used with reclaimed water, when would that happen?
hopefully never.
Yeah,
But we want to have that in there, so if it ever does get attached to reclaimed water, that there's a process that we have to go through.
but it's city employees attaching the meter, right?
Yes,
So this is just a what-if kind of
Yes.
thing.
that's one
All
of
right.
those things in the EPA section
Oh, the
that says,
EPA.
do not use these on reclaimed water.
Okay. Okay, perfect. That makes sense. I appreciate that. Sorry to take some time. All right, all my questions have been answered, and I feel okay. Anybody else? Counselor Perry?
No, ma'am, thank you for those. I've written those down here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can I get a motion then, referring this to council? I guess we're the last ones, or has it already been referred to council?
We will take it back to Finance Committee and report to them.
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause
okay,
fine.
okay,
They meet right before. But
great.
Um,
Okay, so our changes then will go to Finance Committee, and we've done our work.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
And if you want to see what the meter looks like or functions after the meeting, I've got
Yeah.
the flyer for it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you.
Okay, let's go on to our Next item, which is an ordinance on adopting energy conservation codes. Mr. Mavers.
Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. Ordinance number 21-XX, we need to update the energy conservation codes, and our proposed ordinance will amend section 16-21 of the Roswell City Code by adopting the 2018 New Mexico Residential Commercial Energy Conservation Codes. These are under NMAC 14.7.6 and NMAC 14.7.9 respectively. The New Mexico codes in turn adopt the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code with minor modifications. We are requesting that you consider recommending to the City Council to advertise and hold a public hearing and consider adoption of the proposed ordinance, which will adopt the 2018 New Mexico Residential and Commercial Energy and Conservation Codes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments about this ordinance that needs to be referred for a public hearing? If in fact, that's what we do. So, Kevin, we just continue to add these to this city code, is that right? Sorry.
The answer to that question is yes. Our friends up in Santa Fe are very fond of adding additional codes.
Yeah.
And of course, we are required to add those codes by reference.
I guess it's good to put them all in one code. I mean, list all of this in one place.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, can I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to send to the consent agenda. Oh, no, we got to, sorry.
Public hearing.
Send to full city council to recommend to advertise to hold a public hearing for ordinance 21XX adopting the 2018 New Mexico Residential and Commercial Energy Conservation Codes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion, questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, did you recommend approval?
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor of sending this to the next city council meeting with a recommendation to have a public hearing and then approve the ordinance on energy conservation codes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, opposed, no. Hearing none, this will be on the June council meeting to advertise for a public hearing, or July. Thank you. Next, we have item 4, which is a new ordinance on election codes. Is that you, Parker?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. Some of you may be familiar with the convoluted recent history of our election procedures. Forever and ever and ever, municipal elections were governed by Chapter 3, Article 8, and this was in the municipal code, and it was specific to municipal elections, and it had all the nice details of how you do a municipal election. In 2018, the legislature, in their infinite wisdom, completely wiped that out and put in its place something called the Local Election Act, which they then amended again in 2019 just to, keep us on our toes. And so the interesting thing about the way the Local Election Act works is that it is not specific to municipalities the way that the previous code sections that we had were. It just talks about local elections in general and has a few provisions about what they call municipal officer elections, but it's very scant and mainly talks about candidacy declaration procedures, but not how you actually have the election, for which you have to refer to the General Election Code, which is very confusing for us because the General Election Code was written with state partisan elections in mind, and so most of the procedures don't really fit with what we do, and so that leaves the city clerk and the city attorney's office scratching our heads on how to translate what's in the General Election Code into a municipal election. We are doing our best. There's not much guidance either from the state or from anybody else as to how exactly one does this. I think a lot of municipalities have what they call opted in other words, just given up and let the county do it for them. We are one of the municipalities that is not opted in, and so we are figuring it out. And so this is our attempt to kind of clean up. We had our election ordinance, which has been in place for a long time, which is out of date now because it still refers to the procedures and the statutory provisions of that Chapter 3, Article 8, which are no longer in force, and the things that they're talking about don't really apply to what we have to do today. And so we have taken an attempt to look at the Local Election Act, take what the ordinance is and mesh them together and kind of try and produce a document which will help us to do a local election. In other words, kind of translate some of that stuff into language that we can use and fill in the gaps. And that's allowed. The Local Election Act specifically says that any municipal ordinances on elections which don't conflict with it can stay in effect. And so that we're allowed to do that. And that's what the purpose of this revised Section 12-1 will do. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions of our city attorney?
Madam Chair,
Please, Counselor Perry.
I just asked, do we expect that this might be finalized where we can just know this is where we're at? Are we expecting further changes? It just seems like every couple of years that things just change.
I'm going to defer to Kevin because he's got his crystal ball there, and he's going to tell us what the legislature is going to do. Councilor Perry, you bring up a very good point, which is that we don't know if they're going to do further work on this. I hope not, because it's a moving target as it is, but I would say that, at least for now, we've kept this general enough that unless they completely overhaul it all over again, this should still be good for the foreseeable future, even if they continue to tweak it, which was what they did in 2019. And we've got to do something because what we've got right now just doesn't fit at all with what we're supposed to be doing under state law.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry for being just a tiny bit sarcastic with that, but I just like to see something that we can continue with and just know where we're at and not have to reconfigure everything every few years. But we got to do what we got to do. Thank you.
I think we all look at it that way, Counselor Perry.
Well, if I can add my 2 cents, I think that this may be the last time we have to do it, because if they change it again, I think they're going to force it, not be a local option opt-in. They're going to force us to opt in, and it'll nullify this anyway.
That is definitely a possibility.
But for now,
Right, we've got one coming up next year, so I think we need to at least prepare for that one.
Correct.
appreciate that. All right, any other questions or comments, concerns on proposed ordinance amending Section 21 of the Roswell City Code related to municipal elections? Hearing none, can I have a motion, please?
You said 21, but it's actually Section 12, correct?
Section 12-1 is what's being, of the city code is what's being amended, but
Right,
the
this
ordinance is 21-XX.
Yeah. But you-
Well, it's amending Section 21-1
No,
of
it's
the city
amending Section
code
12.1.
with Section 12.1. That's interesting, because I'm the dyslexic one, but, okay, Section
Okay.
12.1 is fine.
Okay. That's what I was just trying to, before I made the motion. All right, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we send to full council to advertise to hold a public hearing and consider adopting the proposed ordinance 21-XX, updating the Roswell election ordinance, Section 12.1 of the Roswell City Code, addressing election procedures for the city.
Thank you. Do I have a second? A second to the
So
motion?
frustrated, but
Any further discussion or questions, comments about this election ordinance? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of recommending putting this being put on the June City Council agenda with a recommendation to have a public hearing and approve a new section 12-1 of Roswell City Code, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. It'll be on the June City Council agenda. This completes our action items for today. What? Record time for us. Is there any comments or questions that anybody may have? I appreciate the department reports. They're included in the packet for the city clerk, legal department, safety, and HR. Thank you all for putting those together. Any questions or comments on those? Okay, hearing none. Counselor Foster's right. This is a record time for legal committee. So we are adjourned at 4:36 p.m. Thank you all.
Need to send the Baptist minister to Alaska more often.
Yeah, maybe so.
Did you hear that, Perry?
I bet he's off